Hello, welcome to Go Time. My name's Dylan, and this car does not belong to me. This is my good friend slash colleague slash mentor's Toyota T18. This is a car that is very near and dear to Tom's heart and is a super unique, oddball little unit, an Australian delivered T72 that we did a 4AG e-swap on earlier in the year. But we encountered some issues and reached a bit of a roadblock with it. So as a bit of a Christmas gift to him, I'm going to be doing some work on it over the next couple of weeks and hopefully getting it to a point where it's almost ready to drive. These cars are a really interesting mix of parts. It was a 3TC from the factory. It's a steering box as opposed to a steering rack. But we've swapped that for rack and pinion from a KE70 as well as a small port for a GE, which is an awesome combo in this car. Cool things about it are it's got what in Australia we'd usually refer to as a panel van front, but elsewhere in the world you'd call it a DX front. So this front end with all the chrome on it and it's sort of a bit like a square like K70 but a bit different. The whole car, despite looking a lot like a K70, is actually essentially completely different. The floor pan, basically the same, but the windscreen, completely different. Every panel in the front is longer. This along here, a tighter radius on the windscreen. Every single part on it is different, as well as it has frameless doors, which is super cool. Frameless windows. And it's completely pillarless, so it is a hard top, so you can sort of put your hand all the way along there. It's a super cool variant of the Corolla. It's a lower roof, lower sort of seating position, sportier feeling and looking car. So it's going to be an awesome rig when it's all said and done, but there's still a bunch of work left to do on it, and it is experiencing one major flaw. As you can see, unfortunately, it's absolutely spewing oil smoke out of the exhaust. This is due to a suspected pretty haggard bottom end on this. Unfortunately, this motor was purchased as a suck it and see sort of package. It was an unopened stock small port 4AG, and we didn't get lucky on the roll of the dice. It does, however, make really good power and it's really nice to drive. So we do think the top end's good, but that ring seal is absolutely a no-go. So gonna have to do something about that bottom end. Not in this video, but hopefully coming up as soon as possible, we'll be replacing that bottom end and getting this thing going. But there's some other matters that need to be addressed before this thing can hit the road, and that's over in the engine bay. So here is the almighty small port 4AG. This is the second 4AG I've wired up into a car, but the first 4AG I've wired to the stock ECU. It was a really interesting journey, and I found it a lot easier, I'd say, to wire an aftermarket ECU in, because you can start from a fresh wiring harness, start from zero. But on this, I started with a stock harness and stripped it back until we had only what we needed for it. But yeah, it went well. It's fully functioning. It's got the cold start working. It's got a fuse and relay box that does everything we need it to do. It's really had no trouble. It operates like a fully stock car. This is something that I would highly recommend if you are going to do a 4AG swap. Just use the stock ECU. It's really not as hard as you'd think to wire these up, as well as these ECUs can handle bigger cams, TRD head gasket, and a little bit more comp quite easily, and they'll run just like stock. And though I'm thankful that I did put a aftermarket ECU into mine because it leaves the door open for modifications in the future, I'm honestly really impressed with how this runs, and also really impressed with how Matt's runs as well, because they just sort of go. And yeah, if you're looking at doing a 4AG swap, I'd really recommend just going with the stock ECU. Things that need doing in here, however, include finishing up wrapping the wiring harness and getting some of the lengths to be exactly correct, as well as wiring in the thermo fans, which are currently not going to anything, and then just a few little odds and ends, like making a bracket for this ignition coil, getting our fuse and relay box that's back here situated properly, and things like that. But first up, I'm gonna get this wiring harness out and start wrapping it up and getting it looking good. So here is our small port wiring harness. There's really not that much to it. The only thing that I need to do to this harness is wrap this end of it and maybe just shorten a couple of these injector wires because I think they're meant to come from the opposite end. So cylinder 2 is the longest. Alright, well that's looking a lot neater in there. Everything's pretty tucked up. It's not the best job in the world, but it is reasonably neat. Yeah, it looks fat in here. Put this on your hat.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, twin mics. Alright, this is a brief interlude on today's programming to look at Matt's new 80 series Land Cruiser.
It's so sick.
Big Land Cruiser guys now.
Big Land Cruiser guys. Not a 60 guy, not built for it. I'm weak, I'm pathetic. I got a comfortable car instead.
Yes, Matt bought a 60 and then he was like, screw this thing sucks.
Yeah, and then I drove an 80 and was like, this is it.
Yeah, they are mad. This is a DX, what is it, at 89?
96.
96?
96, so it's like pretty late.
Oh shit.
Which is cool. Our friend has a 93 and it's quite different, so
yeah.
I don't know the specifics on what year has what thing.
Yeah.
But
this is 1HZ. It's a DX, so it means it has the freewheeling hubs in the front, so it's not like a GXL with the full-time all-wheel drive. So it's a bit closer to being a 60, but it has coil springs all around, and it's just better.
It steers way better. It's way comfier.
It's just a better car, really.
It is a better car. It's just like, it's a toss-up, you know, like which 60s look way cooler.
Yeah.
The interior in this is really boring, but it drives like a dream. It's good on fuel, and yeah. I was looking for a diesel specifically because a turbo diesel costs a bomb here in Australia. I don't know what it's like overseas, but 1HD cars are like 25 grand.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend that on a car. So
Yeah.
got a 1HZ and it's sick. Feels like a truck.
Tough guy shit.
Also found a car without flares because I hate flares. They look kind of gross.
Yeah.
I know that literally all 80s have them, so if anyone's watching with an 80, they probably hate me.
But yeah, we're
looks-
real
looks
weak dogs, so we like skinny wheels and skinny cars.
Yeah.
Because we're used to tiny little cars. So get a big car, make it small. That's the plan.
Just make this look as much like a 60 as I can.
Yeah.
Really.
Splitties with 225/95 16s, which is that tall skinny vibe. So these have like inner tubes in them, which is hilarious for a car made in 96.
It is so weird. The plan is to just kind of like, I was going to say declutter. It's really, really clean, like as you can see. But I don't like the steps. I don't like the bull bar. Even if I were to get a bull bar, I don't like this one. It's so wide.
Yeah.
And it has a winch that could pull the Titanic out, which I just don't need. I just want it to look clean. That's how I have my 60 as well. First thing I did was buy a standard front bar for it. I think it looks so much better. So we're going to take these off. And I actually also bought some factory headlight covers.
Sick, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh. I had cleaned up last time. guy shit.
That's mad. New headlight covers.
Get a load of it. Looks awesome.
It looks so sick.
Gotta be happy with that.
It looks significantly taller.
Yeah. Looks freaking tough.
It does look tough.
I mean,
And it sounds tough.
yeah. I don't know if it looks tough actually. It looks more like kind of cute.
It looks clean, which I'm happy with.
Yeah. Yeah, they sort of match. Matt was saying he was worried they might not match, but I feel like they still match in vibe.
Yeah, especially with the bull bar going,
Yeah.
they'll match.
And if I get some 225s, which I really want to do, because mine are only, I'd gain an inch of ride height with those.
Mad.
So that'd be nice. Wow, it looks awesome.
Looks so good.
Happy?
So happy.
New truck.
New truck.
Next on the agenda will be trying to mount this ignition coil somewhere around here. Going to use this piece of bar stock, do a little bit of cutting and drilling and tapping, and we'll see how we go with that. The next item on the list is that this car was converted from steering box to a rack and pinion. So it's got an A71 cross member to fit the 40G, which also means it has an A71 steering rack in it, and that's super sick, but the only problem is that it still has the T18 or T72 steering column in it. And this was made for the steering box, so the way that it mounts to the firewall is actually quite a bit different. It's meant to pivot on the firewall with a little center bearing and a little bracket on there, which this car never came with. So I've managed to get the parts for that from a K70 to try and bolt into this. So hoping to get that done and have this feeling perfect, because right now, I don't know if you can hear that. It's got a bit of a clunk, and you can sort of feel that the column is a bit loose in the firewall there. So gonna try and sort that out, and that will really make this car feel a lot more dialed. For this, I do have a K70 steering column and the little bracket that goes on the firewall that houses the little bearing that goes on there. So I'm going to pull out this current steering column and see what kind of work it's going to take. then these are the two different styles of mount for the firewall. I'm curious, looks like they might be the same bolt pattern. Oh, that would be bloody brilliant, that would be. That is the same bolt pattern. That's freaking awesome. They are very different shapes though, so I wonder if I'll have to clearance for this part here, but let's see if it'll just bolt on. That would be crazy. And the fourth lines up. It's the same bolt pattern. That's amazing. That one on the bottom left is a stud, but the other three are bolts, and they're all bolting in. Obviously I have to do it up, but that's great. Let's go see if it fits on the firewall side. There is a bit of a cutaway on the bracket that isn't cut away on the firewall, but I think it's quite possible that the steering column won't run into it because it might just be extra relief in there. So I'll just try bolt this in and see if it works. That would be rad. Alright, so I got this bolted in. I had to break the lock on this because I don't have the key to this particular steering column. But it works, and it doesn't hit the firewall. And this is a bolt-in job! Oh my god, the sheer elation I am feeling right now. I was like, I want to surprise Tom with like having done work on his car, but I don't want to like go and cut up his firewall and drill a whole bunch of shit and all that sort of thing. So this is awesome. This is a huge relief. It's also good news for an upcoming project that you don't know about yet. Oh, that's a beautiful sight. All bolted in there. Rock solid. Woo! Sick! So, here we are, all bolted back up, and that issue we were having, the clunk, 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 no longer there. So this is officially a rack and pinion converted T72. Don't you Americans get any ideas and think you're going to steal all our rack and pinions, alright? I don't want to hear about it. Don't ask me for parts. Alright, so it's all bolted back together and I'm excited to see if it works. Gotta make sure that I didn't ruin any of the wiring or ruin the steering. I'm really excited to feel this steering. It'll be the first time feeling proper rack and pinion in this car. I've got my requisite gardening driving gloves on because I don't want to get Tom's steering wheel all grubby. This car actually has an almost identical steering setup to mine with A86 power steering knuckles and rack spaces just like mine. So, well, it still starts, it still runs, it still drives, and it still smokes. And it still sounds incredible. This car is amazing. Like, once it's not smoking, it's gonna be an absolute unit. But yeah, steering feels good. Feels like factory. No clunks, no bangs, no nothing. Feels absolutely ripper. Whoa, this car needs an alignment so bad. What the hell? some sort of pretty hectic intake leak, which I've got to try and find. But Jesus, it sounds so good. Oh, good car, Tom. Alright, well that's the conclusion of Go Time for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I want to give a huge thank you to Tom, whose car this is. I would absolutely not be here without him. I wouldn't have access to this space, nor the tools, nor the guidance and the support that he offers me. And I want to say thank you so much. I hope that banging out some work on this goes just a small way towards paying the immeasurable debt I owe you for the kindness and generosity. I'm really excited for this car. I know he is too. It's going to be an absolute ripper. There's a bit left to do for it. We're going to find a bottom end for it, or piece one together, and get this thing back to the absolute ripper daily that it was before, but now with 8 more valves. I want to say a huge thank you for watching Go Time. This is week 10, I think, of posting every week, which has been an absolute blast. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you for all the words of encouragement. I'm really doing this now, really taking the plunge, spending a couple days a week on this as an endeavor, working towards the future. So thank you to everybody who supports in any way they can. If you comment, message, share with a friend, hit the like button, it makes a massive difference. So thank you so much to everybody who interacts, everybody who watches, and anybody who picks up product from the Go Time site. I appreciate all of you, and I'm super excited for what the future holds. But yeah, everybody say a big thank you to Tom in the comments, because he's the reason I'm here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This has been Go Time. I'm Dylan. I'll see you next week.